I did this story years ago. It was about a CIA operation that went wrong in the not quite the South China Sea. It's north of Luzon in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an operation where some CIA paramilitary guys, it's called maritime branch. There's, the three components are air branch, ground branch, and maritime branch. So these guys have,
these are the three different
paramilitary components. And there's also like the covert influence group, that guys who do like propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
So Mar Branch has 4 guys on a small boat, and they're to go out there. They're under like a civilian cover. And they're going to go on one of these like atolls out there that, where it's like some rocks that are visible at low tide. They're going to send a couple divers out with this pod. It's disguised to look like a rock, but it's packed with like sensitive electronics, like classified electronics. And they're going to put the pod in the rocky, atoll, and it's going to monitor Chinese military traffic in the area, coming through the area. What happens is, as they're heading out to complete their mission, a hurricane starts sweeping through the Pacific. They have to make a decision. Do we continue with the mission? Because the hurricane was supposed to like veer north and miss their area of operations. So they decide, we're going to go ahead with the operation. Well, the hurricane did not veer. It barreled straight towards them. And by that point, there was nothing they could do to avoid it. They could go north, south, east, west. It didn't matter. They'd get hit full bore with the hurricane. And
I guess they were wedged between the hurricane and mainland China.
They were out in the middle of nowhere, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on like a 30-foot boat. And there was there was a beacon on that boat that the agency was monitoring, and it flashed out in the middle of the hurricane. No trace of those 4 maritime branch guys or the boat itself were ever found. Not a floating life preserver, nothing. Absolutely nothing was ever found. Those 4 guys who died, there was a younger guy named Michael Perrick, who was a graduate of the Merchant Marine Academy. There was a retired EOD Navy diver named Stephen Stanek. There was another, Navy guy, part of like a Marine Union, Daniel Meeks. And then there was a mechanic on board also. And geez, I'm sorry, his name escapes me right now. It's definitely in the article I wrote. But those 4 guys perished, and they got stars on the wall at CIA headquarters.
Now, typically operations like this where things go wrong and people don't come back, those things typically aren't reported on, right? Because people don't even know that they're doing what they're doing.
And it was one of the eeriest stories I ever reported on, because for a long time, I'm looking at this. It was so eerie because as time went on, I was able to, it was really difficult, but I dug up all 4 of the names and I got death certificates, and I could tell these were human beings. They actually lived and they died. But beyond these death certificates, it's like they just vanished off the face of the earth. And nobody said anything about it. And I think that's part of the reality of, I think I called them in the article secret sailors. These are our covert operators, if you will. And that even in death, their life and death remains a secret.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's coming back to me now. I think is this the story where these guys had their identities traced back to like a building or a fake business?
Yes.
That was placed in the Panhandle.
Yes.
That makes sense now. So yeah. So what else is going on in the Panhandle with these diving teams and these? Is this maritime branch still a thing?
Maritime branch definitely exists. Yeah, they have civilian vessels that they operate, and they can do different things to get people in and out of certain places in certain situations, or do different types of missions. And down there on the Panhandle, there's a big presence of spooky stuff, both intelligence community and Navy.
Really?
Yeah.
What's spooky about it?
It's just covert op stuff. Ivory Bells was the program to tap into undersea cables. There's components of that program run out of there. Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
What kind are they utilizing? Any sort of like unknown or classified like technology to? You were mentioning that these guys are diving like up to 1,000 feet underwater.
Well, those are like experiments that are conducted, right? To see the Navy does these like kind of like NASA type experiments, except underwater with divers.
Right.
See like how deep can they go? How much bottom time can we get them once they're down there? And experimenting with different types of mixed gas. And yeah, that one guy who was telling me he was under like 1,000 feet of water. And because the oxygen in that tank gets compressed more and more the deeper you go, he said that when he was down there at the bottom, it was like he was trying to suck maple syrup through his regulator, breathing in that oxygen gas. So yeah, these guys, I mean, they can be deployed off of submarines, or they can be deployed off boats, and there's all sorts of different ways you can get these guys there. But we're talking about
they can be deployed off of a submarine.
Yeah, they can lock out of a submarine.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the SEALs do that too for a different mission, different type of mission. The SEAL delivery vehicle, and they can go ashore and conduct reconnaissance and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah. But then the Navy divers they conduct undersea espionage. That's a thing, and one of those things is tapping fiber optic undersea cables. And I mean, everyone taps fiber. America, Russia, France, Israel, UK. I mean, we're all tapping fiber.
We're all tapping each other, and we all know it.
Yeah. There's even a term for some of that. If you've ever heard of fourth party collection.
No.
Fourth party collection is when you go into, you're exploring around trying to find a place to exploit the adversary's communications. So let's stick with this example. We send some divers underwater to go tap an undersea fiber optic cable. So they go down there with all their equipment. They're ready to tap into it. And they get there and it's like, oh shit, there's already a tap on it, but it's not ours. It's, let's say for this example, it's Russian. Let's say it's the Russians tapping a French-owned fiber optic cable. Now, what we can do is fourth party collection would be we tap into the tap. And so we're collecting everything that's going through the fiber optic cable, but we also know all of the information that the Russians are getting because we're tapped into their tap.
Right.
So it's sort of like this like omnipresent sort of intelligence collection method that you get to know the information that everybody's getting. And yeah, that's a thing.
That's scary, man. That's wild.